A 2,000-pound giant eland, armed with massive spiraled horns capable of snapping a lion's neck, steps into a crocodile-infested river and willingly surrenders control. It does not submerge its massive torso to escape the blistering African heat, nor is it simply crossing to greener pastures. It enters the water to allow hundreds of sharp-beaked birds and swarms of ravenous underwater creatures to feed directly on its flesh. To understand why a creature as imposing as the giant eland, the largest antelope on planet Earth, would risk stepping directly into the hunting zone of Nile crocodiles, you have to look closely at its skin. Beneath that regal, tawny coat lies a microscopic battleground. Millions of tiny, bloodthirsty parasites have turned this majestic beast into a living, walking buffet. Ticks, blowfly larvae, mites, and parasitic flies burrow into every fold of the eland's hide. A single adult eland can carry up to 10,000 ticks at a time. These are not merely an annoyance, they are a creeping death sentence. They drain precious blood, transmit lethal blood-borne pathogens, cause festering infections, and weaken the host until it can no longer outrun a pride of lions. Out on the open savanna, the heat is unforgiving, but the itch is far worse. Every second spent shaking its head or swishing its tail is energy wasted, energy the eland desperately needs to forage and survive. The parasites cluster in spots the eland's tail can never reach, deep inside the ears, around the nostrils, between the hooves, and along the tender skin of the underbelly. Left unchecked, these bloodsuckers will literally drain the life out of the giant. But evolution rarely leaves a problem without a countermeasure, and the eland has forged two of the most extraordinary, unholy alliances in the animal kingdom. It begins from above. Perched on the eland's spine are small brown birds with blood-red eyes and sharp scissor-like beaks, the red-billed and yellow-billed Oxpeckers. These feathered surgeons spend almost their entire lives clinging to the hide of megafauna. Using specialized curved claws that act like miniature grappling hooks, an oxpecker can hang upside down from an eland's neck with effortless grace. They do not just hop along the back, they perform a meticulous, systematic search of the animal's body. With a technique known as scissoring, the oxpecker runs its open bill through the eland's dense fur, snapping up swollen, engorged ticks like ripe berries. A single oxpecker can devour over 100 fully fed female ticks in a single day, or thousands of microscopic tick larvae before they even get the chance to bite. When the eland feels a bird working inside its inner ear, it does not flinch. It lowers its head, flattens its ears, and lets the tiny beak probe deep into the delicate canal, plucking out parasites that would otherwise cause agonizing infections. Yet, as effective as the oxpeckers are on the upper body, the lower half of a giant eland presents a structural challenge. The underside of the belly, the inner thighs, and the hooves remain dense zones of infestation. To solve this, the eland does something that seems entirely suicidal. It marches straight toward the riverbank. Rivers in sub-Saharan Africa are death traps. Muddy waters conceal apex predators that have spent millions of years perfecting the ambush. A Nile crocodile can lie motionless beneath the surface for hours, waiting for a mammal to lower its guard. Yet the tick infestation is so severe that the eland chooses to face the immediate threat of a predator to escape the slow torture of parasite overload. The giant antelope steps into the murky current, wading deeper until the water laps against its flanks and submerges its underbelly. As soon as its body enters the water, the underwater army awakens. Swarms of freshwater fish, cichlids, African barbs, and labeo species detect the arrival of the titan. For these fish, the submerged eland is a floating feast of epic proportions. Dozens, then hundreds of fish swarm around the massive legs and chest. They begin picking at the submerged skin with surgical precision. The fish dart in, nibbling away dead skin cells, algae, and most importantly, the thousands of water-bloated ticks clinging to the eland's lower body. The sensation must be intense. an electric, tingling barrage of hundreds of tiny nibbles working simultaneously across the animal's skin. The eland stands completely still, closing its eyes in a state of near trance, allowing the aquatic cleaners to work undisturbed. While the fish scour the underwater surfaces, the oxpeckers remain on duty above the waterline. As the river submerges the eland's body, parasites crawl upward to escape drowning, congregating along the spine and neck. The oxpeckers capitalize on this panic, feasting on the fleeing ticks in a high-speed feeding frenzy. Above and below the waterline, a synchronized multi-species cleaning operation unfolds. However, this partnership is not entirely harmonious. There is a dark, parasitic edge to the oxpecker's loyalty. The bird does not just eat ticks, it craves blood itself. If an oxpecker finds an open wound or a tick bite on the eland's hide, it will use its sharp beak to pick at the scab, deliberately keeping the wound open to drink the fresh blood flowing from the host. In many ways, the oxpecker is a parasite playing the role of a savior. It balances on a knife's edge between mutual beneficial partner and vampire. But for the eland, the math of survival is simple. Losing a few drops of blood to a bird is a cheap price to pay for the eradication of thousands of disease-carrying ticks. Beyond their cleaning services, the oxpeckers provide another vital asset, an early warning system. Due to their elevated position and sharp eyesight, these birds notice predators long before the eland does. If a lion creeps through the tall grass or a crocodile ripples the river surface, the oxpeckers unleash a harsh rattling alarm call, a hiss-like chatter that instantly alerts the giant host. The moment the eland hears that sound, its head snaps up, its muscles tense, and it prepares to fight or flee. The birds gain a meal, and the eland gets a bodyguard, a surgeon, and a sentry all wrapped into one. After nearly an hour in the river, the underwater fish have picked the lower body clean, and the oxpeckers have stripped the upper coat of its bloodsuckers. The eland slowly shifts its weight and turns back toward the bank. Droplets of water cascade off its muscular shoulders as it emerges from the river. Its coat, once matted with parasites and dried mud, now shines under the harsh African sun. The eland shakes its massive frame, sending a spray of water through the air. A few oxpeckers launch into the air, fluttering briefly before landing back on the animal's neck, settling in for the journey back to the dry savanna. The submerged fish disperse into the river currents, waiting for the next leviathan to step into their cleaning station. This extraordinary interaction reveals the brutal complexity of the natural world. Survival in the wilderness is never a solo effort. It requires bizarre, high-stakes negotiations between species that have every reason to fear one another. A giant antelope trusts tiny fish not to bite its sensitive flesh, accepts the painful jabs of a blood-drinking bird, and risks the jaws of a crocodile, all to maintain the delicate balance between host and parasite. As the giant eland disappears into the dusty horizon, the cycle continues. Tomorrow, a new generation of ticks will attempt to claim this giant, and once again, the sky and the water will join forces to strip them away. Nature does not operate on mercy or goodwill. It operates on cold evolutionary logic, where even the largest beasts on Earth must rely on the smallest creatures to survive another day.